Hello, my wee cherubs, and welcome to another edition of the Allan View podcast with myself, Liam Innes, my co-host, Jake Pointer,
Hello there.
and daft wee panellists Thomas Fro, Owen Innes, and Mr. Stephen Povey.
Hello there.
As per, we are brought to you in association with After Extra Time Shirts, so make sure you follow them on Twitter. That's at AET Shirts for some great content and lovely merch.
This week we'll start off by sobbing our stupid wee hearts out as we look back at the Lions' toothless Hampden display against St Johnstone in the League Cup final on Sunday. We're also going to chat to ex-first team coach and Livingston manager Allan Preston as we get an insight of what it's like to have West Lothian's top football job.
And as per, to wrap things up, we'll be looking back at some memorable games against those Fir Park fannies Motherwell as the Lions prepare to get out their funk for Saturday's league game against the Steelmen.
So queue up for an hour and jump on the front row of the emotional rollercoaster ride that is supporting the Livingston Lions with us here at the Allan View podcast.
I've travelled forward in time and managed to get Thursday's Courier to read out for you all here. The back page reads, Lions limp to silver medal as Sucker Punch Sainties give Livy knockout blow. Incidentally, the front page reads, Doug quacks the case on mystery Blackburn bin bandit. That's one investigative duck. Fair play. Anyway, the Lions fell to a 1-0 dreadful cup final defeat to the hands of the Perth pricks St Johnstone at the weekend, and now 5 VLs are going to tell you why we thought it was shite. Povey, give us your thoughts from those untouched lips of yours.
In goals, number 1, Robbie McCrory. I think as soon as I saw that, I knew it was going to be our day. Oh my God. Strange lineup. Shite goal. Corner, man. What all season? What are we like with set pieces? But just a nightmare. Yeah, I thought we started off all right as well. Robbo was the man. Like he was giving it his all, and you know that was great to see it. But the more the game went on after they scored, I'll say it again. When Jet went on, that was it. I would start putting the bunting down a bit then. To be honest, it was a tough one to take. Amazing we got there. Trying to be positive. I really just want to say, what the fuck was that? But you know what? What is what is.
What I will do is I'm going to pick up on the first sentence you said when you said Robbie McCrory. Was he at fault for anything? I actually thought that he had a pretty decent game.
Me too.
I can't. Obviously, it was a shock to see him in goal. But does anyone have any thoughts on Robbie's performance as a whole? Because honestly, I don't think he could have done anything for the goal. Thomas?
I think he maybe could have done a little bit better for the goal. He kind of gets a hand on it, and you know it doesn't go down to him really. Like I'm not going to blame him for not saving it for the goal. But what I will say is I thought his kicking was actually exceptional. When we were launching those long balls up the park, it was far better than what Max has been doing recently. And I think Max should have started, but his kind of more direct balls up the pitch, I think, were good. And I think we got a little bit of joy out of that, getting the ball up to Robbo and letting him throw his weight around a little bit. Obviously, it wasn't to be, but yeah, I think that's maybe a tad harsh, probably.
I've got to counter that. Like the St Mirren game, right? When Max was in goals, he had I don't know. I feel like he has the defence organised a wee bit more. I suppose that's what it is. You know, with your defence, you want your defenders to know your goalie. I just think changing the goalie so much this season, going between the two of them, I don't know. I would have felt more comfortable with Max. He was the man who got us there. He played a big part. He's a big game player as well, you know. I'm not disagreeing. I'm not disagreeing that. I mean, good save from McCrory, that wee double save he had. But Max is a good, you know, big game player. His debut against Rangers proved that. He played the semi-final. I just think he should have been there. And, your defence will gain a wee bit confidence by who's behind you.
I thought McCrory had probably one of the better games that he's had for us. His kicking was really, really good. But yeah, no, I think it's not the selection of McCrory which bugged me, which I'll come on to later. But I thought McCrory actually had quite a decent game. Probably our best player on the park all day.
Thomas, what was your thoughts on the final?
Obviously disappointing. Was a really poor game of football. I think we could see for like the first few minutes that it was going to be a bit of a shocker. And I do think that we started well. I think we put ourselves about well, and we were getting the ball into the right places and winning the ball as well. But that's kind of what changed for me later in the game. We looked rushed at the back. We were obviously going for a more direct approach, which, isn't the best to look at, but it was obviously the plan. And it just didn't seem to be clicking. The amount of times that I saw Guthrie, Devlin kick the ball at the park, Ambrose kick the ball at the park, kind of these long direct balls forward that maybe another day would have landed at someone or hit Robbo. There was so many times we gave away possession by just booting the ball out the park. Serrano as well, he did it quite a few times. And it was just really frustrating to see. I don't know if it was like we've been told to be more direct, to be quicker, get the ball to the park fast, use the big pitch, try and get in behind them like we did against Hibs. But, it didn't work. They were maybe a bit too rushed, trying to get the ball up there, and then they made the mistakes that didn't allow us to build on the kind of the possible advantage of having Robbo back up front and winning those balls and knocking it down to a second player. I don't think Hampden Park, I don't know how much bigger it is than our park, but it looked big and it looked a bit heavy. The players weren't moving a bit very fast. So, we weren't able to get those second balls as well. The one time that we did, that we kind of got a knockdown, second ball, we forced a good save for the keeper from Mullen's shot. So there was that, a bit disappointing. But my second very quick point is we were horrendous in the air, both defensively and going forward. We didn't win anything, and that should be a staple of our game, especially when we're getting the balls up. When they were going up and going central, we didn't win that many, or they weren't going to Robbo and we weren't winning them. The balls into the box, plenty of long throws, corners. We didn't win a single attacking header, I don't think, in a good position from a throw in or a corner. And then defensively as well, that's all they did. That they won all the 50-50s in our half. And it was just that's when you know that it's not your day, because that's usually what we do so well. We recover the ball well. We go and play the game for there. We build from those. And it was just, we just knew it wasn't going to be our day when those little things just weren't working. I mean, you can blame it on loads of reasons, but, all in all, kind of agree what Povey said. I'm delighted we got there. And I think we'll look back at the season and probably say at the end of the season, you know what, it was a pretty good year, hopefully secure top six. But it was a disappointing day on the whole that should have been so much better. It was just a bit limp.
I'll quickly touch on something you said. Here's a very uninteresting fact. Apparently, the two biggest pitches in Scotland are Hampden Park and McDermott Park. So read into that what you will. Jake, what about yourself?
I feel the whole day was a massive, massive overthink. I feel Martindale, when you make a decision for something too long to think about it, it's like he had too many sleepless nights thinking about certain things and to and froing. First of all, putting Bartley on the left, I get it. Why are we seeing as Sean fucking Rooney as such a threat? It's not Ronaldo that we're feeling like we've got to close him out. By putting Bartley on the left-hand side, we completely shut down that flank. We completely shut it down. He's not going to go forward. We've got nothing going down that side, right? So then, okay, makes sense. We're our biggest threats. Devlin, Mullen. Void. Because the balls were just getting sprayed out to the left-hand side to Bartley, doing nothing. I don't get it. So many other games, guys like Jason Holt will take it down, they'll spray it out from the right. That's the way the balls are coming in. We're playing long balls. Get it to Mullen, get it to Devlin overlap. Why is that not happening? 2, I'm getting quite sick of watching football managers play plan A. Why are you not thinking at the sidelines? We're lumping up the balls. We're losing every 50-50. This is not working. Why are we not changing to do something else? Why are we not playing a different style? I don't fucking get it. Well, no, let's just keep battering the balls up. And we're being pish at it. We were kicking the ball up all day. It was pish. And we did it all day. Like, I'm not going to say it again. I'm not a football analyst. Why are we doing the same thing over and over and over when it's not working? And we're in a final and we need to try something different. And what was my last point? Putting Steve Lawson, absolute pish, fart in the wind. Can't you believe Craig Sibbald didn't start? It's our best player by far in the last. I'm proper ranting, eh? Craig Sibbald is by far our best player of the last wee while. Cannot believe he didn't start again. I think overthinking, going, oh, we might have to have Lawson. I don't know, maybe more defensive. And my last point before I take up all the time, I think we missed Kieran Brown, eh? At left back.
Yeah.
I think we actually did miss him, and I think Sean Rooney would have done nothing. I think Kieran Brown was exactly the right player to play against him. Bartley would have been back in the middle, sitting, and then it would have been either Sibbald or Forrest down that left-hand side, so we'd have attacks on both flanks. Total pish. Sorry for ranting for way too long.
No, I loved it.
And that's it. That's what I want. A bit of rage, to be honest. I loved it.
Owen, what are your thoughts?
Well, the better team won at the end of the day. I think that's something that no one else has said yet. So I do want to say the better team actually did win. Our formation, our tactics, our team selection was all on the day, in hindsight, was all wrong. I mean, we all sort of called it when we first saw the lineup. And of course, for me, it's got nothing to do with McCrory. McCrory, he's a good goalkeeper at the end of the day, or he's certainly highly rated. So the whole idea, basically, our entire game plan was shut down Sean Rooney. That was the entire game plan. When you're playing Bartley out on the left-hand side, you've got Julian Serrano, who I don't ever think actually left his own half in the entire game. He's normally so good at getting down that left wing. We never made a proper break down the wings at all. On the times when we did manage to get a couple of corners or a couple of throw-ins. The long throw isn't working anymore. People have worked it out. Every single long throw that went in, they had like 3 players that were headering it away. It wasn't just one player, one defender headering it. They had 3 players. It was essentially, we were getting the ball past the first man, but it wasn't going to anyone whatsoever. Mullen's shot was just a stroke of luck, really, and it was the only shot that we had on target entire game. But my biggest disappointment, as Jake said, Steve Lawson again, fart in the wind. Like, he literally brought absolutely nothing to the team. And as far as I'm concerned, I've never seen anything from Steve Lawson to suggest that he should be anywhere near our first team lineup, especially when you've got Craig Sibbald. Fair enough if you've got a wee niggle or an injury or something like that. Craig Sibbald should be, even if Craig Sibbald gave you everything for 50 minutes, 55 minutes, 60 minutes even, it would have been much better than having Steve Lawson on the field for 70 odd minutes. Team selection was horrendous. The tactics was basically shut them out for as long as possible. We couldn't get the ball down the wings, so we were never getting the ball into the box. Then Jet comes on, couldn't hit a barn door with a fucking banjo. It was awful. It was truly awful. Yeah, even coming away from the game against Dundee United, which I said was worse than the Stranraer playoff games, I'm edging on that one being even worse. It was just an absolutely horrendous display from such a good team. Everything about it, all wrong. It was all just about shutting out one player. But I think now Davey will be looking back at that team selection, hopefully, and going, what was I thinking? What was I thinking? But yeah.
I think it's a bit harsh on Lawson, to be honest. The way we moved the ball forward didn't give any of our midfielders the opportunity to do anything. You could have put fucking Iniesta in that midfield and he would have looked shy, because the ball would have been going over his head. You know, Lawson, if we'd got the ball down, Lawson, you know, he's got decent feet. He can move the ball. He's no Craig Sibbald, right? But we just didn't give the players the opportunity to play. And that's down to the system and the tactics.
I remember the Scottish Cup final, a group chat that me and Povey are in, all big Hearts fans, saying they came in after Celtic beat them on penalties, and they're like, "Oh, I was so proud of the team. Oh, I'm so proud of the team. I'm so proud." I started ripping them, being like, "Oh, well done. No, Hearts won the Pride Cup. Oh, well done. No, he's got a medal in Pride and all that." And then see on Sunday, I was like, "Fucking hell! Like what I would give to be the winner of the Pride Cup, because there was fucking nothing." A guy, a listener of the show, John Alexander, raised this on the forum as well, that even the fact that we didn't travel in a bus together, right? So the players are all driving through to Glasgow themselves. They're sitting from Livingston to Glasgow with nothing but their own thoughts. There's no distractions. They're getting into their heads. They're probably thinking, like Steve Lawson, for example, right? I quite rate him because I think he wants the ball and he drives forward with it. He's good at sort of jinking past players. He's not great, but he's a flair player. He's willing to try something. He looked like a fucking child on Sunday. You just wonder if that was part of the mentality that players like him were thinking, "Oh fuck, like, what if I try and jink past a player and it doesn't work? It's a cup final. What if they go on and score?" Like, it started with the Dundee United game. Obviously, we were at home to St Johnstone. That was the first loss. And then Gavin Riley had his positive COVID test. And that's when decision was made that the players are start driving to the games. And you can clearly see that they're missing that sort of... They just look so disjointed. And yeah, they're seeing each other every day in training. They're seeing each other in the dressing room before. But there's that sort of... Between seeing each other before the game and seeing each other in the changing room, there just seems to be like a real... There might be a sort of negative effect on them, and they're clearly just... On Sunday, they were clearly just so far into their own heads, and it was... For a cup final, if we lost 1-0 and we tried, well, obviously people are saying that the players tried in that. They clearly tried, but fuck me. Just, if you can't get yourself up for a cup final and be excited about it, then what's the fucking point? And a lot of folk as well on the forum and on Twitter and stuff, like, sort of saying, "Oh, you know, it's good that the players got there. It's amazing that the players got there. It's fucking brilliant. Like, we've been calling out for a cup run for 17 years. It's amazing that we finally got there." But you're allowed to be angry at them. Like, you don't automatically stop supporting them because you criticise them. If they deserve criticism, they should get it. And over the past few weeks, the performances have been fucking terrible. And Sunday, I thought, right, there's this pressure on them, but there shouldn't have been a lot of pressure because they're in it to win it. If they go out, try and lose, you know, whatever. But it was the fact that they just looked so fucking... There was only one team that was proper up for it, and that was the worrying thing. And yeah, the goal was shit. Marvin Bartley playing at left wing, it worked to an extent, but yeah, we lost the creativity in the middle of the park. But fucking hell, just so pish. I just can't believe how pish it was. February was a pretty grim month for the Lions as a whole, but due to the fact that we bought a state-of-the-art laminator and various primary school certificates, we have chosen a Player of the Month for February. So it's over to Mr. Povey to reveal this month's prize and this month's Player of the Month.
This month's Player of the Month has... Well, he should have started the cup final. That's what we're all in agreement with. He had a very good month out of, as you say, a pretty poor month. It was Mr. Craig Sibbald. So, Mr. Sibbald, you have won our amazing certificate. but you've also won a snood with a lion on it, so you can cut about and hide your face for the next wee bit until we start winning some games. So
Clever
hope you
boy.
enjoy your prize. Clever boy.
Clever boy. Thomas, have you got anything on why you chose Craig Sibbald to be Player of the Month?
I think you can kind of juxtapose everything that I said about the final and bring that into why Sibbald's probably been the best player. He makes us play. He brings our other players into the game, our kind of best, most creative players. He brings them into the games. He makes the team tick a wee bit more away from the kind of very traditional Livingston or fucking hammer throwers. And he's not like that, and he makes us no play like that. He's technical, he's creative, and as I said, yeah, brings in the likes of Pitts, Mullen, Forrest, and Robbo as well into the game. So yeah, it's not been a great month, but yeah, Sibbald the standout this month for me.
Owen, what about yourself?
I think it's just I could just sit here and just repeat just what Thomas has said there. He's been a kind of shining light in quite a shitey month, really, as a Livy supporter. He's got a lot of bite to him as well. That's what I quite like about him, is the fact that he's a very technical player. He's one of those kind of proper all-round, newfound defensive midfielders when he plays there. Seen him deployed out in the wing at times as well. Unlucky that he doesn't get on the score sheet a lot more as well, which is kind of unfortunate for him. I always remember him being on the score sheet a lot when he was at Falkirk. But he's a very technical player, but he can do the dirty side as well, which is kind of what you want. You want someone who can not only pass the ball and create good opportunities for other players, but you need someone as well who, that when he loses the ball, he chases it down. He's just a really, really good player, and I'm really, really glad to see him sort of getting plaudits, and I'm glad to be part of a group who can actually, give him a plaudit that he fully deserves. So that's why I chose him this month.
Jake, have you got any quick thoughts on him?
Yeah, just his bit, his creativity. Miss his creativity. I think he's brilliant. I think his delivery is great. Obviously, and it was Serrano in the final. Just wasn't as good anyway. So well done, Craig Sibbald. You're the man.
Yeah, quite hard to sort of elaborate on anything that the boys have already said, but a worthy winner for a poor month for the team as a whole, but a great month for Mr. Sibbald. You are this month's Almond View podcast. Very good boy.
Hey!
We are now joined by a man that was not only part of the backroom staff during one of the club's most successful periods, but also managed the club, and during that time gave a young Robert Snodgrass his debut in football. And if I were him, I would tell every person I met in life that I made Robert Snodgrass who he was. Get the tea at the ready, ladies and gentlemen, because we've got an absolute Fox's classic of a guest. It's former Livingston manager, Mr. Allan Preston.
Woo-hoo!
How are you, Allan?
Good evening, gents. Thanks for that lukewarm welcome.
So we're going to quickly touch on your playing career. You started at Dundee United, and I had brief spells at your much-loved Heart and Midlothian and Dunfermline. But you really made your mark at some stupid team from Perth who have obviously got nothing to talk about this week. So one of your most memorable moments at St Johnstone, arguably, was scoring an absolute rocket against Hearts in a League Cup semi-final at Easter Road in 1998. Was that kind of like your idea of hell, like celebrating a goal against Hearts at Easter Road?
Oh, you're a professional football player, so you want to try and do your best and get to cup finals. Hearts had won the Scottish Cup before that, and we had got them in the semi-final, but we had drawn with them at Tynecastle 2 weeks before, which I scored again. We drew 1-1, and then we got them in the semi-final at Easter Road, and we played really well on the night. Nick Dazovic put us 1-0 up just about 6 minutes before half-time. Then 2 minutes later I scored for the second, and then George O'Boyle got the third in about 2 minutes to go, and it was great, but we got against Rangers in the final, and they had World Cup winners and all the rest of it in their team at the time. Guy Vache won the World Cup with France. It was just an incredible side that they had. Van Bronckhorst and Alberts and all these people. So we lost the final, but we gave a good account of ourselves. We lost 2-1. Nick Dazovic again scored in the final to make it 1-1, but we lost again 2-1.
I was just going to kind of talk about that after, because St Johnstone, they've only been at like one cup final in the 1960s before then. So did it take a while to proper sink in about how momentous that actual day was? And like you said, you were unfortunate not to get the win on the day. Yeah,
we were a really good side, actually. And I wouldn't say we had any spectacular individuals. A bit like Livingston nowadays, I think. I think Livingston are very much remind me of my time at St Johnstone. They had a real team spirit and a real collectiveness and some good players, but they all gelled together and they all played together. They all liked each other. We used to socialise with each other. Our manager at the time, Paul Sturrock, would make us go out on a once a month on a Sunday night. He'd give us a Monday off, so we'd have a night in Perth. Then the next month it'd be in Edinburgh. Then the next month in Glasgow. So we socialised together. They also, instead of training, we would go karting. So we would play the local Tayside Police at go karting, or it would be clay pigeon shooting. He would take us there again because we beat the Tayside Police at go karting. They brought out their guns people for the clay pigeon shooting, and they hammered us. We would go hill walking. We would go to bingo in the afternoon with the kit lady Aggie Moffat. We just done everything together. And that really helped us that year because we'd finished third in the league. We'd qualified for Europe as well. We'd got beaten in the semi-final at the other cup. We played Monaco and David Trezeguet was playing. Barthez was playing. Just brilliant times at that time at St Johnstone. We hit the heights in Europe. It was a phenomenal team. To finish third in the Premier League is a great achievement. And that team was the happiest, and that's what I said. I was asked on Sunday, who do you want to win the cup? And I said I just slightly favour St Johnstone because it was the happiest time in my football career was there because I made friends for life. I still go on holiday now with Alan Kernahan and Paul Kane, two guys that played with me. Roddy Grant's been away with us, so we're a very close-knit group. Jim Weir got inducted into the Hall of Fame last year at St Johnstone, and we all turned up as a group, so it was great to see guys like Miguel Samil, Nathan Lyons, who used to play at Livingston as well. Yeah. Nick Dazovic came in from Canada. It was just brilliant to see everyone. Attila Sakelioglu came in from Austria, so it was great.
Unfortunately, in 2000, you had to retire from playing because of injury at the age of 30, and you moved into coaching. And after a brief spell with Macclesfield Town, you joined the Amber Army, the Lions of Livingston in 2001. How did the role come about? Did you approach Livingston, or did Davy Hay and Jim Leishman kind of approach you? Or
it was Robbo. It was wee Robbo. I'd been down. I played with Robbo at Hearts, and I knew him really well. I'd gone down to England to coach at Macclesfield in League Two. Peter Davenport was the manager, ex Man United and Nottingham Forest. He lost his job, and I just felt I was down there and I wasn't enjoying it. I was away from my family. So I came back up the road, and then within about 4 months, Robbo had says, we're looking for someone to help with the reserves. Davy and Selford on the first team, and I come in with the likes of, I think John McLaughlin was there as well, who was taking the youth team, and I was sort of flitting between the reserves and the youth team at the time, just between one and another. And then, but it was kind of, you were doing, must have been 80 hours a week. You were in at 7:30 in the morning, and I was leaving sometimes at 8, 9 o'clock at night. You were watching the kids round the back on the AstroTurf. It was tireless, and you wouldn't get paid a lot. I was hardly getting any money at the time. And then eventually, I got a full-time contract. Dominic spoke to me and gave me a full-time contract, and then I got moved up the ladder up to help with the first team, which was brilliant, absolutely
brilliant. What were Jim and Davy like to work with? Because we've heard some quite funny stories from ex-players. Did they give you freedom to do your own drills? Just what were they like?
Yeah, no, well, we would say to Davy, it was mainly Davy. Leash is brilliant. Leash is a motivator more than anything. He wasn't. In all the years I worked there, I think he took one he contributed to one corner at a set play and it went wrong, so we just laughed at him and away it went. So Leash would come to training in the morning and spend 10, 15 minutes having a look, and then, I'm too cold, I'm away back in, and that would be him. But Davy was here. So myself and John would go to Davy in the morning and say, right, what do you want to do? Do you want to do, possession early on in the week, hard running, possession, gym work with George McNeil? What do you want to do? And David would say, right, give us possession today. So we would go and troll through our books of stuff that we'd done over the years and put some possession drills on, and then put, cross and finish in small-sided games and just things like that. So we would do all that, but David told us what he wanted us to do then, but he gave us free rein to go and do it, and we would, myself and John would then go and carry it out. And it was great. Again, brilliant players, absolutely. Loved my time at Livingston, contrary to what people think. People think I don't like Livingston, but I do. What I don't like, and I'll openly admit it, is the AstroTurf. Because the AstroTurf, because I played on it when I was at Dundee United at an early age, and that was old AstroTurf, which was concrete based. That was part of the reason I had to retire at 29, was because of the AstroTurf and me running about on it and me training on it. So I've never liked it. So I criticise it when I can, but people think I've got in for Livingston because I criticise. I only criticise the pitch. I do the same when I'm at Kilmarnock. I do the same when I'm at Hamilton Accies, because I don't like it. And I'll never change my mind for that, because it was part of the reason I had to retire at what I thought was an early age.
Okay, moving on into the 2001-2002 season. It was our first season in the SPL, and we finished third, and which meant we got into Europe. Obviously, at that time, the management team are telling the players, you're brilliant and stuff like that. But when it kind of hit the season, when you're just like, shit, this group of boys are class, and we can get third quite easily because we're so good, kind of thing.
It was brilliant. It was just a great time, and I had the task. My job was to go away and watch the team that you were playing in Europe, which we played Vaduz. So I would fly over to Vaduz, into Zurich, because Liechtenstein was so expensive to stay. So I would fly to Zurich on my own. I would then hire a car at Zurich, and I would drive to Liechtenstein, watch them play, and then drive back to Zurich at night. And it was brilliant. And we had such a good bunch of players. I mean, the Spanish lads integrated with the Scottish lads, with the English lads, and the Fred Brancoin for France. It was brilliant. They're so nice people, and I still speak to Oscar, I still speak to Manu Dorado. You see Marvin now and again, you get nothing but a smile off Marvin. Lee Makel, I speak to Stuart Lovell. So Derek Lilly, I see Derek at games, so I still speak to them all. But it was just a wonderful time, a special time to be at a real special club at that stage of my life, and hopefully at their lives as well.
So then the 2002-2003 season, barring the European games, was pretty underwhelming domestically, with the club finishing in 9th place. However, the 2003-04 season would be the club's most eventful in its history. It started with Marcel Maximo being named as head coach, with Jim Leishman being moved to director position in the club. Players of that season have all said that Marcel was a lovely guy, but he was just kind of out of his depth a bit. As a part of the coaching
he was in the wrong movie.
He
was in the wrong movie, honestly. He was in... Dominic wanted Livingston to do so well, and I still believe to this day, and no one will convince me otherwise, that Livingston going into administration, Livingston were the fall guy for another club, who you can pick yourself who you think that is, but Livingston were put forward to be the ones to go into administration, when it should have been another club who eventually went into administration. But we were put up first, and it was horrible. I'd been to Costa Rica that year to look at players. I spent a week out in Costa Rica. Dominic flew me out. So the song "Do You Know the Way to San Jose?" I do, because it was Edinburgh to London, London to Miami, Miami to San Jose. And I was out there looking at players, and so eventful. I went out to San Jose, got picked up by a guy, an interpreter, who was taking me around. There was 3 games I was to watch within the week. First game was great, crazy. Water cannons, riots, everything else. Second game, having to drive through the jungle to get to the second game for 5 hours. He's got a handgun down at the side of his handbrake. And I'm panicking. I say, what's that for? He says, because people bump your car, and when you get out to have a go at them, they'll shoot you dead, and they'll rob everything off you. So I'm a bag of nerves. So we eventually get to the game, and it's in the middle, 5 hours away, and I'm chalk white, I'm Scottish. I stick out like a sore thumb.
Yeah.
So I'm at the game, and they don't like that I'm there, because I'm the only one there that looks like that. And they're having a go at me. So we get chased down the road The guy got his car all dented, he threw bricks at us and everything else. So I'm back to the hotel, I'm a bag of nerves again, and then I'm out to watch the third game. But in between, I'm playing golf because they put me on a lovely golf resort. And it's something that this you will not believe, but this is a God's honest truth. I turned up at the first tee, and the guy says to me, "Do you want a jam head?" And I said, "What? I don't know what it is. What is a jam head?" He said, "It's a person that we spread jam on their head, and when you hit your ball, they run to it. So by the time that you get to your ball, all the flies and mosquitoes are on his head, so that they don't attack you." And I'm like, "That's inhumane. That's not right."
What?
But that's the truth. That is the truth. A jam head in Costa Rica. So I was like, "No, I'm fine. I'll get bitten." And but these are all the things that go on in your life, and it's phenomenal. You know, it's absolutely phenomenal. But that's 100% a true story. And then we tried to bring one of the players over. I recommended it was a Costa Rican captain. He had 90 caps, and I met him after for some dinner with his agent after, and we just couldn't strike a deal up at the time, which was a real shame because I thought he was Costa Rican captain. He played in the World Cup. He was brilliant, but we just couldn't get him in, unfortunately. You know, but at that season, it was just a great season. You know, and Marcio came in and he was at the wrong movie. I think Dominic met him lying on a sunbed. I think Dominic must have had a drink or too many and offered him the job and put Davy and Leash up the stairs. And everyone's seen the movie Mike Bassett, but that was honestly what it was like at that point. And he had the same initials, Marcio Barcelos, on his top, and it was on it. When you do possession at training, so you'll maybe do small-sided boxes, 10 by 10 yard boxes, and you'll do 5v2 piggy in the middle kind of thing.
Aye.
Mm-hmm.
And so I said, right, I'm doing boxes 5v2. And he says to me, "Alan, in Brazil, 2 keep the ball off 5. And I'm like, "That's impossible. It doesn't matter who you are. 2 people cannot keep the ball off 5. Yeah, in Brazil." It was just he was making things up. He had them running through sand pits. He got a sand pit built. He had them running through that. He had them training like Mike Bassett without the balls. Some of the stuff, and the players were coming to us, and I was pulling my hair out because I had gone from coaching with John, coaching with Davy and Leash, to a guy's coming in and is theoretically making this whole thing up. Mm-hmm. We had gone down to, I remember the pre-season we came in, and I'd phoned Davy. Davy was on holiday. And I says to Davy, you need to come back. Davy was a director of football. I said, "You need to come back. This isn't working." So Davy was like, "Right, I'm coming home anyway, so I'll see you." So he said, "I'm coming to York." We went down to pre-season to play York City, and we were down in York for a few days. And we were 2-0 down at half time. And he came in at half time, and we'd been really poor. We were poor. And he came in at half time, and I says to him, "You're going to have to get into them a little bit. You know, it's not good enough." And he says, "I don't know what to say. I don't know what to do. And, you know, I've got nothing to say. So, but you do it." So he sat down, and I went crazy. I made a few changes, made a few shape changes, and brought 1 or 2 on. And we ended up winning the game 3-2. There was actually a fight at the end of the game. There was a punch-up at the end of the game right in front of the dugouts. But we won 3-2. So we're back on the bus, and by this time, Leash and Davy had come down. And there, you can imagine on the bus, the driver's at the front, they're right behind the driver. Dominic's over the other side of the aisle on a seat on his own. So me and Marcio come on the bus. I sit behind Davy and Leash, and Marcio sits beside Dominic. And I sat and listened to him, and I heard them saying, and Dominic went, "Well done, Marcio, great, good result. You know, you fought back well." And he went, "Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I changed it at half time. I done that." And I'm just sitting shaking my head, saying, "You done nothing. You done absolutely nothing." You know, and I was on the phone to Davy virtually every day, saying, you know, this can't continue. And then eventually we played. It was an international weekend, and we played Clyde and a friend at Armadale on a Friday afternoon. All the players go away for the weekend, which is fine. Let them go. I said to them, you need to put a performance in here. We're playing a Clyde. We need to really go for it and get a fitness on, getting a few days off away. We lost 4-0, absolutely. When you're talking Marvin, you're talking Oscar, all the boys were there. And he's like, I said, like, they can't go away. They're in tomorrow. And that was my philosophy. I was brought up with a real tough taskmaster in Jim McLean, and the results weren't great. He would cancel nights out, he cancelled Christmas nights out, make sure we were on a Sunday. You're a professional footballer, you've got to go and do the best you can for the club. So we lost 4-0 and in the changing room, and I'm like, right, you're all in tomorrow, we're not going away. That's a disgrace. We've been beat for Clyde 4-0, hammered, and it was lucky to be 4-0. Right, no, they're not. They're all going home. They're all going home. So I walked out, and Dominic was sitting at the back of the goals in his car, and he was embarrassed. And he said, "What's happened?" And I said, "I've had enough. I can't continue with this guy." I said, it's not working. He doesn't know what he's doing. He wants to do things himself." And Dominic said, "Right, go home. You go home, and I'll speak to you tonight." And I went home, and they phoned me that night and said, "That's Marcio done." We were going to Parkhead, and it was crazy. He was trying things that he said to me, "I've got a system that will beat Celtic," and I'm like, "Well, people have tried for over 100 years in Scotland. You maybe beat them now and again, but you'll not beat them on a consistent basis." And it was just an embarrassment. It was really, really bad, to the point where I chucked it. I'd say, "That's me. I've had enough, Dominic. Anyway, I'll speak to you later on tonight." Because one thing, I'm not a great coach, I'm not the best coach, but I was dedicated to my profession, really dedicated, as everyone was at that point. And we felt that, why didn't he just leave Davy in charge? Davy should have been the manager of the football club, but he put him up the stairs on a director of football role, and Jim ultimately left. It was going well. And, and Livingston, for me, the size of club Livingston is, success is, if you can get in the top 6, brilliant. If you staying in the league is a big thing, staying in the Premiership year in, year out, being a Premier League team for 10, 12, 15 years should be the way that Livingston should be going. If you can get to a cup final, brilliant. If you can win it, even better. But to bring Marcio in was just completely wrong. It was in the wrong movie, completely the wrong movie.
Mm-hmm. Well, so you said he left in October 2003, thank God, and then David takes over. And that season obviously goes on to be extremely successful. The club, they lift the cup. Despite administration on the morning of the semi, how did the management team try and keep the morale up, going into this huge event, and then something so bad like that happens? Well,
that season, because obviously Marcio was in charge, but our first game was against Queen's Park at Hampden. And I says to the players, this is where the final is. Can we start here? Can we end here? Not thinking that, 4 or 5 months down the line we were going to lift the cup. So then we go into administration. We had heard there was tentatively it was going to be administration, but Dominic kept saying, no, it's not going to be us. It's going to be someone else. But ultimately it was us, unfortunately. And that was really difficult because we lost guys like Francisco Quino, who was brilliant for Livingston, goes down as a legend at Livingston. Other young guys that were starting off their careers had to get let go. People in the staff, working in the office department, they had to get let go. And it was very, very difficult. And normally with Livingston, we would stay away on a semi-final of a cup, especially playing at Easter. We would stay in a hotel, the Apex in the Grass Market, but we hadn't been paying the bill, so we couldn't stay there. Thankfully, Docherty's, the coaches who'd been with us, were brilliant. We hadn't paid their bill, but they said, "Listen, we'll give you the coaches for the rest of the season," which was really kind of them. So that was the thing that we had drummed into the players. Let's do it for other people, also yourself, the fans included. Because they're hurting, you are hurting as well as we were, but let's do it for them. And then when the administrator came in that day, they basically said, you need to win this, because getting to the final, you'll get 50% off a 50,000 crowd, the TV money that goes with it, and that'll go a fair chunk of the way of saving the club. So the pressure was on the players as well. And I keep saying this, it's a fairy tale, and I still think it, even with what Davy's done this year at Livingston, there should be a movie wrote about Livingston. I really do. Coming from Meadowbank out to Livingston and everything. You couldn't picture it that we got a penalty, which I'm not so sure it was a penalty in the last minute against Dundee, but we'll take it. And Derek Lilly.
He's saying it was a stone ball penalty.
Well, I'll go with Del then. If he said it, I'll take that. And he scores the winner. And but after the game, we're in the changing room, and you would think, everyone jumping up and down, high-fiving, but it was so quiet, so subdued. We were all on a downer because of what had happened to the club. What happened to people in the club? The supporters were gutted. The players that had been let go, the office staff had been let go, and we were so down. And normally you'd go and have a few beers, but not. It was home, cup of tea, a sandwich, and then up in the morning and pray that you've still got a job. Because it was just a horrible, horrible situation to be in.
As I mentioned, the team obviously went on to win on the Cup that year against Hibs. Now, you obviously had a mixed history with League Cup with you scoring to get St Johnstone to the final. However, you missed out on a winner's medal. Even though you weren't a player for Livingston that day, did it kind of block out the disappointment of not winning it with St Johnstone?
That was brilliant. Yeah, listen, you're in this game to win whatever you can. And I was so thrilled that we won it. Obviously, a lot of my friends are Hibs supporters. Hibs 3,000, I think, at the game.
Yeah.
And one of my mates had met him the week before the game, and we had a really good record against the Hibs. The Hibs were quite young, with Brown and Thompson and Whittaker. They were young lads. I think it was maybe 18 months too early for them. And I'd met my mate Darren O'Hara the week before, and he says, "How do you think you'll go?" I said, "Oh, we'll win it." And he said, "Are you sure?" I said, "Oh, I'm 100% sure." I said, "But we've sold 43,000 tickets." I said, "What does that mean? That doesn't mean anything." And so be it. We went to the final and we won it. But the whole build up to the final, Hibs were out the Scottish Cup, and we were playing on the Sunday, so Hibs didn't want to go 2 weeks without a game. So we had trained in the morning, and in the afternoon, Hibs were playing a friendly at Easter Road against Brecon City or Arbroath. I think it was Brecon. I think Dick Campbell was the manager anyway, and I know it's quite topical when you look at Leeds United, but I managed to sneak into Easter Road in the afternoon. It was before the stand was built across the main stand, and I sat behind one of the pillars, and I had their whole team the week before the final. And there was only one doubt that we had. Which was Ian Murray was injured in the friendly, and we thought Ian Murray would have played, but it was a guy called Alan Reid that played in the final. And he was the one that played against, I'm sure it was Brecon on the Saturday. So we had the whole team. We had the Hibs team the week before the final, so we could work on it and we knew what we were going to do. And the second goal epitomises that, because Bobby Williamson's teams squeeze a high line and they play a high line. They press the game. And although we didn't expect Jamie to run through from the halfway line, but we were working that week that players would be one-on-one with a goalie from maybe 30, because Hibs held such a high line.
Wow.
And it worked out. It worked to a treat. It absolutely worked to a treat. And we had worked on it the whole week. And it was great to see it come off, really to see it. But the whole build, the administrators let us go in a hotel the night before, and then Lee Makel's father-in-law sadly passed away the night before the game, so Lee left. And we were all down. We were really down. And George McNeil, who was a sprint coach, he is an after-dinner speaker and a wonderful after-dinner speaker. So we asked him to do an hour. We asked him to do 20 minutes, but he actually done an hour to cheer the players up. And he slaughtered everybody from Leash to myself to Davey, all the players. Marvin fell off his chair at one point. And it just settled everyone down. And then when we got up in the morning, we got up for breakfast, and Lee was there, which was great. And everybody was delighted to see him. And then myself, Danny Cunning, Kirky, and Paul Hegarty, we went to Hampden to put out the strips. We went there to lay out all the strips so that when the players come in, it's immaculate. Their boots are at their place. All the strips are out. The changing room's ready to go. And as you do, Danny Cunning, the kit man, he went to the Hibs changing room to offer them an embroidered Livingston strip as an exchange, and he was getting one off them. But their kit man wasn't there, and it was their groundsman, who subsequently became their kit man, Tam McCourt. And they says, where's the kit man? And they went, oh, he's away back to Easter Road. He's forgot the League Champions T-shirts. So we're like that, oh, happy days. That's fine. Magic. So you've already printed out T-shirts. You've not won the game yet, and you've printed out T-shirts. So we went back to the players in the hotel, sat them down in pre-match and said, they've got a map sorted out for their bus tour at night, their open top bus tour. They've got the kit man's back to get the League Cup winning T-shirts, and that was all we needed to say. That was it really. And we went there. We played not so great in the first half, And as I said earlier, Davey had a little go at Fernandez, the genius, and he gave us 20 minutes of magic. And then that was it. And it was brilliant. It was a great night. I remember myself and Kirky, I slept in my office with a cup. I wouldn't let out my sight. I locked the door in case it was just brilliant. It was a great time. And I remember Grant Stott, who was on Radio Forth at the time, big Hibs fan and a good friend of mine, Grant. And I remember phoning him at 4:00 in the morning for a request to put on Radio Forth in the morning. I left it on his voicemail. And it was I'm in the Mood for Dancing by the Nolans. And I said, you need to play that for me. Because we had played it at Hampden when we won the cup. And he played it out, my message, he played it out on Radio Forth the following day at lunchtime. It was great. And then a few days later, while he was live on air, I ran into his studio with a cup and said, this is what you wanted. But unfortunately, you can just get a photo with it, but you're not taking it any further.
At the end of, or towards the end of the cup winning season, it was apparent that Davy Hay wasn't going to be in charge for the next season. And in an interview with Colin McMenamin, he said that sort of Davy Hay announced it before a game with Kilmarnock towards the end of that season. Now, obviously, you were the one that took over. So, at what point did you realise that you were actually in the running for the job?
I wasn't ready. Honestly, I was 34. I wasn't ready for the job. But it was basically take the job or you're out of job. You know, and when you're like that, it's what more can you do? We had been told by the administrators that they described it to us. The person that's taken over the club is like an iceberg. And what they meant by that was what you can see above the water is fine, but what they've got below the water in financial terms is incredible. So we thought, happy days. So we're sitting there, me and Davey and Kirky and Heggie, we're sitting there and Davey will tell you. I mean, I was on the phone to Davey on Friday, it was brilliant. But and we spoke about this actually, that we had players ready to come in to Livingston because they were all out of contract because the administration. We only had 2 signed players, which was McNamee and O'Brien. Mm-hmm. And we had to say we were going to try and get Barry Robson from Dundee United at the time. You know, there was guys. Jason Scotland was about. There were so many players that we had a list, and we thought, myself and Davey, we thought this is going to be brilliant. You know, we can get these players in. We're going to be in the running again. And then when Pierce Flynn came in, he took Davey in the office. If you know, across from the home changing room, there's 2 offices. The manager's office, what used to be a manager's office and a coach's office. So he took Davey in. Pierce Flynn took him in to the manager's office, and Davey came out and told me and Heggie and Kirky. Now, Kirky had been a manager. Paul Hegarty had been a manager. I'm 34. You know, I'd only been coaching 4 years. I wasn't ready for the job, but it was put to me. Davey came out and says he wants you to be the man, and I honestly thought he was mucking about. I thought that's not right. He winded me up here, and he went, "No, honestly, I'm not here. I'm leaving. It's going to be you." And I was like, "That's so." And then I go in to see Pierce Flynn, and he says to me, "I wanted to be you as a manager," and I'm like, "But Davey's the man. You're not going to get a better manager than Davey Hay." And he's like, "No," he said, "I want to go down a different route." He said, and I said, "And what happens if I don't take it?" He says, "Well, you'll be out as well. You'll be out of job." So I went in to see Davey, and Davey went, "Allan, listen, you need to take it." He said, "You've got a mortgage to pay, you've got bills to pay. You have to take it." And that's how I got the Livingston job. Really, it wasn't because I was better than Paul Hegarty or Billy Kirkwood, and certainly no Davey Hay. But I was given no option, you know, and that was it. And you've got to take the job. And I'm thinking, wow, you know. And then it used to play on words, Pierce. When we took over, myself and Alan Kernan, because Billy and Paul had gone to Dunfermline. So I had nobody. I was on my own. It was my 10th wedding anniversary. I was supposed to be going to New York and then to Florida for 3 weeks. And I says to my wife, I said, "I can't go." She's like, "What do you mean?" I said, I can't go. I need to get a squad together. And she's like, "But it's a wedding anniversary." I said, "But I need to get a squad." We had 2 players, McNamee and O'Brien. And I sat in the office, and I then appointed Alan Kernahan. I then brought in Alec Cleland as well to take the youth team. And I sat in that office from 7 in the morning till 10 at night, going through players, DVDs, faxes, emails, you name it. I went through it with Allan, trying to get players in. And at that time, I wanted to try and get some of the boys back. But you're asking guys like Oscar and Manu and guys like that to come from, where at Livingston, before administration, they were getting well paid. They had a car, they had a house. I'm asking them to take a third of what they were on, no house, no car. And the budget I had, Pierce Flynn came out and said, Allan Preston's got the third biggest budget in Scotland. And I did. But my budget was to get in 18 players because I only had 2. Craig Levine's budget was to get in 2 players, who was the manager of Hearts at the time. His budget was to get in 2. Mine was to get in 18. But the wages I was paying, I was competing with League One clubs at the time because it wasn't the Championship then. I was competing in Division 1 clubs. Jim Hamilton will tell you, he came for next to nothing because we couldn't pay any money. We couldn't give the houses that we were given, couldn't give the cars that we were given. And even just getting a squad together was a remarkable achievement because you were hanging off and people weren't giving you answers because the money we were offering was poor and they were getting better elsewhere. And then Derek Lilly had left to go to Boston and he was homesick. So he said, can you try and get me back? I'm desperate to come back. And eventually we managed to get Derek back. He'd only been there 3 weeks, but his wife didn't like it and wanted to come home. So we managed to get Derek back. And that's where we were. But it was such a tough time for me because I didn't know what to do. I'd been guided by, in my eyes, the best in Davy Hay and with Billy and Paul by my side, who I've known since I was a kid at Dundee United. They played at Dundee United and I joined the ground staff when they were there. And it was me that brought Billy and Paul to Livingston because I knew them and I know what kind of characters they were. But for them to be leapfrogged and it to be me given the job when I wasn't ready, far from being ready, wasn't great, But I put my heart and soul. People won't think so. I put my heart and soul into it. I didn't go on my holiday, my anniversary. I didn't go to family weddings. I didn't go to birthdays. I didn't go nights out. I would waking up in the middle of the night at 2 a.m, write stuff down that I'd remembered when I woke up, and that would be me up for the day. I'd be in my office at 7:30 in the morning, and I would leave late on at night. And it was 7 days a week. It's relentless, and I take my hat off to every manager out there because you can't switch off. You just can't. And I had a brief spell as a manager, and I absolutely hated it, if I'm being honest. Because as a player, I looked after number one. I made sure I was prepared. I made sure that when I crossed that white line, I'd done everything. My weight was bang on. I was fully fit. I was ready to go. I knew what I was doing. But as a manager, you have to look after everyone at the club. And you don't know what your players are doing away from the club. You don't know, are they behaving right? Are they not having a drink? Are they getting enough sleep? And when they fall out with their wives or their partners or girlfriends, you've got to be a psychologist. You've got such a difficult job to do. And I was 34, in the Scottish Premier League, and a team that had won the League Cup. It was such a difficult period for me. And then even at the end, because I know a lot of people in the game, I got called to the boardroom with Alan Kernahan, and Pierce Flynn and Vivian Kyle sat me down and said, it's not working. And I went, yeah, I'd agree. And they said, right, we're going to make a change. I said, fine, give Alan the job. And they went, no. I knew, because I got told the night before he had met Richard Gough in a hotel in Glasgow. So I knew that, and I knew that. And I said, you're giving the job to Richard Gough. And he went, no, I'm not. I said, yeah. I said, just be honest. Be honest with me, Pierce. You're giving the job to Richard. And he went, no, I'm not. And then obviously Richard got appointed a few days later. But the whole thing, Pierce wasn't at games. He wouldn't come. He'd be at some games, but not them all. He had more money in Celtic than he had in Livingston. He wasn't interested. And he had a guy, trying to remember his name actually, one of the guys that was on the board at the time, who I think he's in PR now. He does something like that. And he used to give Pierce Flynn marks out of 10 with the players on a Saturday. So then Pierce would phone me about 5:30 and say, "Oh, he got a 4, he got a 3, he got a 6," and I'm like, and it was one of his minions that was at the club, who was on the board at the time, giving him opinions on players. It was, and I still believe if I had been given more time, I believe I'd have kept him up. Myself and Alan would have kept him up. We were a brand new team. Yeah. Only having 2 players, we were a brand new team, and it certainly wasn't for the want of trying and the want of doing things and being right. We got off to a great start. We beat Me, Rob was Inverness first game of the season, and everything was great. But we knew tough times were around the corner. You know, we're Livingston. We're not paying the best. We hadn't been together long. We were a group of players that were flung together, really, after the success they had in previous years, getting to Europe, winning the Cup, sustainable in the Premier League. We were a side that were flung together over a period of 3 or 4 weeks, and it was very difficult. But I'm proud of taking it on and having a go, and having chances to go back into professional football clubs. I've had many chances to go back in, but it's not been for me because the people at the club at that time really sickened me with it. You know, I was, and the people will tell you, Davey will tell you, Kirky and Robbo and Heggie, 24/7 I was given for Livingston. For the 3.5, 4 years I was there, I gave it everything I had. I wouldn't have done it any other way. That's just the way I am. And I felt that these guys that were in charge were just not the right people. And they bounced from Pearce, it bounced to the Italians, and it was horrible to see where Livingston was going into administration. It was just dreadful because it's a club that people don't think so, but it's got a place in my heart because what we've done, you know, what I've done, it was a brilliant achievement winning the League Cup and something that no one will ever take away from me. I love my time there.
Yeah, that's honestly just some mad insight. Like, I mean, I've heard some like mixed things about Pierce Flynn in terms of some players. Obviously, the playing staff don't really know much about him. Like, they don't get much interaction. But like, did you sort of feel that you were sort of put out there as not like a scapegoat or whatever? But I remember he had like a similar weird thing with Stuart Lovell after a game. Like, he sort of really went after Stuart Lovell in the media and stuff.
Yeah, but what happened was that, and again, because I was 34, I was naive. I had stopped doing the training a little bit because I brought Allan in to do the training, and I would oversee it, but I would then obviously contribute and get myself involved in it. And Stuart had criticised a session publicly to the press, and I should have went in and hammered them. You know, that's what I should have done. And if I'd been Davy Hay, I would have hammered them, but I didn't do that. And I think Stuart got suspended in the end. Not, you know, I'm not sure, but he got suspended or fined or something. And Pearce came out and had a go at him, and it wasn't for Pearce to do. It wasn't for him to come out and have a go. But you know, but I still speak to Stuart now. You know, I'm on good terms with Stuart, as I am with all the players. Life's too short. You know, life is too short. I had a go at what I wasn't successful at it, but I would have wished I could have had another 5-6 years under my belt, more experience, more time, and then I would have probably liked to have gone back into management again. But you're not given that. You know, you're given a take it or leave it scenario. So that was the way it was. But it was a strange period because I remember, and I always remember it, that and I'll never forget it. He's actually at St Johnstone now, Matt Guidi, who does the PR and all the paper stuff for St Johnstone, wrote on the back pages of the Sunday Mail or the Daily Record, I think it's the Daily Record, that I had stabbed Davy in the back and couldn't be further for the truth. And Davy phoned me, and Davy's like, Alan, you've not done anything wrong. I've been there. I've been in the middle of it. You've not done anything wrong. You've not stabbed me in the back. You've not stabbed anyone in the back. That was just the way it was, you know. And I've still, as I said to you, Davy called me on Friday morning because we were reminiscing again about the cup final. Mm-hmm. And it was brilliant to hear him. You know, he's had an operation, but he's looking great and he's doing well. Yeah. And I've said to him, when this is through, we'll meet up. I'll come through and we'll meet up for a coffee when we're through the back end of this, because he's a guy that I hold in such a high regard as a person more than anything. You know, but as a coach and as a manager of our team, it was great just to be there and work under him, because Davy had that look when he looked at you. You knew, as he done with Fernandez in the final, when Davy went, get out the way, because you were left in no uncertain terms it wasn't good enough.
It sort of intrigues me a wee bit. You mentioned about the paper and how, I mean, you're a 34-year-old guy. You've spent, you know, you had to quit playing at a fairly young age, and then you sort of went into the coaching side. Now you're sort of being thrown in to manage, I'm not going to say one of the biggest clubs in the country, but you're a Premier League club in Scotland. Biggest budget in the country. But, like, And then you see this article saying Allan Preston stabs Davy Hay in the back. Like, how did you sort of deal with that personally?
It's not great, but it's more importantly for your family, because you've been in football. I've been in football all my life. I signed at Dundee United as a 16-year-old, retired at 30, and then into coaching, and so you're thick-skinned, But for your family, my mother and father were alive then as well, and it was for them I felt sorry for. My wife, my immediate family, my sister. Because they're reading it and they don't know how to handle it. Their brother, their son, their husband is getting slaughtered in national newspapers for something that I've not done. Something that I haven't even done. But that's newspapers for you. You just have to get on with it. It's not great, and that's what I don't. I wish social media would be just all nice and happy, and it's not. And we're seeing it with sectarianism, with racism.
Yeah.
It's just dreadful. It's a horrible, horrible thing. It can be a wonderful thing, but equally it's a horrible thing. And you'll maybe get 10 good things written about you, but it's that one thing that sticks with you when someone criticises you to something that you've not done. That you're genuinely you've had no involvement in, and that's the hardest thing to take.
You've mentioned it yourself, so you're aware of it. There seems to be this sort of perception amongst Livingston support that you have this sort of negativity towards the club when you're covering our games on Sportsound, and that you're sort of unfair in your coverage. So where do you think that comes from, and what's sort of your side of it? Is it just part and parcel of being in the media now, or is it do you think there is any sort of truth?
No, listen, Livingston, as I said earlier, has got a special place in my heart. It really has, and you might not think so, but if I cover a Hearts game, if you go on Jumbo's kickback at the end of a Hearts game, you'll see I get slaughtered on there. If I cover a Hibs game, if you go on Hibs.net or whatever it is they've got, or High Beast Bounce, or I don't know what it is. If you go on that, I get slaughtered on there. If I'm doing an Aberdeen game, I get slaughtered there. I say it as I see it, and it's not sometimes what people want to hear. Mm-hmm. And I've said a number of times that when I'm at Livingston, Kilmarnock, or Hamilton, I don't see good games on the AstroTurf because I feel it's a non-contact sport because of the bounces are abnormal at times. The very first game when the new AstroTurf went down, all the black pellets were on it. Then you go to Kilmarnock and it's a completely different AstroTurf as well. And because I've had to retire through injury, and AstroTurf being part of it, but if you've listened to me this season with Davies Run and everything else that's been going on, I've been nothing but complimentary to Livingston. I will never slaughter the football club itself. I just don't like the surface, and that's nothing to do with Livingston. That can be if I'm at Alloa watching a game. That can be if I'm going sent down to Queen of the South watching a game. I just don't like it, and nothing will ever change my mind. Livingston had a brilliant grass pitch when we were there. One of the best. Colin Fraser was the groundsman, and Colin's now at Hibs. Needs to do a bit better there actually when I see that pitch on the telly. But it's mainly because of the AstroTurf. I just don't like it. But as far as the football club's concerned, I have no issues at all with it. As I said, I love my time at Livingston. I genuinely do. And I want them to do well. And if it hadn't been St Johnstone in the final, I'd have been 100% rooting for Livingston. But because I had the happiest time in my playing career at St Johnstone, I edged for them on Sunday. But make no mistake, I would have wanted Livingston to win it because it's brilliant for them. For a provincial club with a small fan base like St Johnstone to win the cup, it's stuff that dreams are made of. And I have no grudge at all against Livingston. Only, as I say, I'll reiterate again, is the plastic pitch. I don't think it should be in our top game. There's 96 clubs in England, not one AstroTurf pitch. But I get it. I totally get it that finances dictate training. You don't have to pay for training facilities. You don't have to buy a lawnmower. Things like that, which I totally get. And I understand it for smaller clubs, but I don't think it should be in our top league. When we're trying to sell our game around the world, I look at games on the plastic pitches and I don't think it's a good fit, and it doesn't look great. And that's the only criticism I've got of Livingston. Certainly not Davey and his team, because they've been magnificent. And if you've listened to me, I think John Guthrie's been an excellent signing. I've been waxing lyrical about Robinson the last 2-3 months, how good he's been.
Yeah.
You know, playing 100 games for Hearts and dropping down to East Fife and getting him, what an achievement that is for him. And he's been brilliant. And even on Sunday, I thought he started the game really well. So, you know, I think the players at Livingston deserve enormous credit. Davey does, and the people that own the club do, because they've got it back on an even keel. So I have no grudges against Livingston at all. I hope that puts it to bed. I won't please everyone.
We hope so too.
Has anyone got anything before we get the final
I've got to
question?
I've got to ask. A recurrent theme in our podcast is the man Sheriff Toure, my man. Anything you've got, how he came about the club, and any stories you've got just on him.
It was a guy. Two guys actually. John Calderwood and George Wright used to play for Hearts, were agents, and they brought Sheriff Toure, my man, in. And at that time, there was a rule that you had to have a certain amount of under-21 players in your first team squad. I think it was 3 or possibly 4. And we had, it was 3. And we used to use Sharif as one of our under-21s. But subsequently, we found out that when Sharif left, he got caught crossing the Italian-Swiss border with 4 different passports. And his actual age, we were using him as a 21, and he was over 21, well over 21. It was incredible stuff.
See, we'd heard rumours about that, but we didn't.
Nah, that's
actually
the truth. And we were like, wow, you know. But Sharif was a gifted football player. He was a good player, but he, he wouldn't mark men. He wouldn't mark his runners. He was a typical, continental player who didn't like the rough and tumble of the Scottish game, didn't like the physical contact, but he was built. He was what a build he had on him, and he was an athlete and he could play. He just never applied himself, but he played in the World Cup with Togo, done well, but that was the story that we had been told, that he'd get caught crossing the border between Switzerland and Italy and got caught with 4 different passports, which were all different ages. So the one he gave us clearly put him at under 21.
So before we let you go, we've got one last thing. So let me set the scene, right? You get a text from one of your BBC Scotland colleagues. You've been told that Pat Bonner, Willie Miller, Billy Dodds, Leanne Crichton and Richard Gordon fancy a game of fives against 5
on, you've
players.
got 2 goalies here. You've got 2 goalies here. Pat and Richard are goalies.
Is Richard Gordon a goalie?
Richard's a goalie. Yeah, there you go. We used to play 5-a-sides when it was a walk-in football and people were trying to lose weight, and we stuck a team in. It was at St Mirren actually, and we stuck a team in, and Richard was in goals. Very good. Got the gloves and everything. Incredible. So you've got 2 goalies there. So you need to drop Richard out, because I'm sorry, Richard, but Pat's a man. Pat was a brilliant keeper. So you're going to have to bring probably chicken. Oh, Fairgill do. Yeah, Fairgill do.
And it's a game against 5 players that you coached at Livy. Who are you choosing?
Good shout. Well, the goalies that we had were brilliant. Alan Main was great for a period of time. Obviously picked up injuries, which was a shame. Roddy won, but I've got to say, Brotto was just exceptional. Absolutely. He would make saves that you think, how has he done that? And then he used to kick the ball. He was so accurate. He'd kick it side on. Mm-hmm. But he used to practice it. He would put wheelie bins at the halfway line with the lids open, and he would try and ping balls. It didn't go in a lot, but he would be very close all the time, both sides, right and left foot. So I've got to say, Javi Sanchez Brotto, and at that time Roy Baines was the goalie coach. Roy would work them really hard, but Brotto was an exceptional goalkeeper who went on obviously to good things at Celtic as well, and a lovely guy, a really nice guy. In the defence, I'm going to go for a bit of culture. I could go for strength and muscle, and it would be Marvin if that was the case. But I'm going to go for Emmanuel Dorado. I thought Manu was a brilliant, very accomplished football player that could play in many teams. It reminded me very much of Davy Neri, and I was lucky to play with Davy. Very elegant on the ball, very comfortable when he came out for defence. Could have played as a holding midfield player as well, because he could pass it. So I've got to give Manu a place in there as well. So and alongside him, I would probably have to go for somebody aggressive, because if you've got a cultured player next to you, you need somebody who's an absolute fruitcake and I'll take bodies. So I'm going to go for Gary Boland, and that might surprise you, but he was the Tasmanian Devil. He was an absolute lunatic. I played with Gary at Dundee United, but he would kick his own granny. He was ruthless, absolutely ruthless. So I'm going to go for Gary alongside. I'm going to go alongside Manu. In the middle of the park, for me, it has to be Francisco Quino, because again, technically, a wonderful football player, 2-footed, could ping corners in with either foot, left foot, right foot. And when you look at guys like Stuart Lovell, Burton O'Brien was a wonderful player as well. Guys in there in the middle of the park, but for me, Quino was gifted. And we had. Remember, we got the guy from Barcelona that came. He was named in the Barcelona all-time 11.
Guillermo
We
Amor.
had him coming. Guillermo Amor. He was a great player as well. But Quino on his game was sensational. And then there's only one, David Fernandez. David has to be in any Livingston team for me. You know, that backside, he would back it into defenders. He would hold them off. He would create goals. He would score chances. But he honestly, he dressed like his dress sense. He used to get dressed in the dark. He would come in with very different socks on, trainers that were different. He was just, it looks like he just got out of his bed. But he was a brilliant, fun-loving guy. You know, really, really good guy. So that would be my five: Brotto, Dorado, Boland, Quino, and David Fernandez.
Well, thanks so much for your time, mate.
Amazing.
Really, really appreciate it.
No
It
problem.
was great.
No problem.
I know.
Appreciate it, Alan. Thank you very much.
Anytime.
So-
Honestly, good luck. Listen, good luck for the rest of the season. Good luck in the Scottish Cup, and I hope. The thing is, if the Scottish Cup's not played to a finish, I think it goes down to 5th for Europe.
Mm-hmm.
So you might need to get your passports out.
Definitely.
Oh, fingers crossed.
Back
But
to
don't go
Liechtenstein.
even- don't
Alan
go even
Preston
do
says
it.
it's happening. It's happening.
Zurich. Well, we just need to remember Zurich. We'll be fine.
Zurich's where to stay and then drive to Liechtenstein. That's great.
Five of us. We can fit 5 of us in one car. That'll be fine.
That would be great. Brilliant.
Amazing, man.
No
Thank you
worries,
Thanks so much,
guys.
Alan.
No problem. Speak to you soon. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks so much. Cheers.
Yeah.
Even though we're recording this before the midweek game against Rangers, it'll have been and gone by the time you get it into your lugs. So we'll be skipping straight to this weekend's opponents. This Saturday sees the Lions travel along the M8 towards Motherwell to take on Livingston's 2018-19 squad at Fir Park. And no doubt by next week we'll have become the stars of the official Motherwell FC podcast. Owen, what memories do you have stored in that big heat of yours against the mighty Well?
Believe it or not very many. There was a cup game that I remember. It was at home. We must have been first division at the time. And I just remember their fans just being absolutely bouncing. I think we lost the game 3-0. But on a sort of just kind of more recent, the 2-2 draw at the beginning of this season, I thought was kind of quite a good game for us. It was the first game where we really saw like a proper kind of bite from us, because obviously we lost the first 2 games of the season. We'd just been absolutely hammered 4-1 at home by the Hibs. So the 2-2 game, I think Lyndon Dykes scored his last goal for us in that game. Talking of lasts, it was the last time that we ever saw Ayman Suda as well. He disappeared pretty quickly after that, but I think it was also the first goal for Alan Forrest in the Premier League as well. So I thought it was actually quite a good game to watch as well. It was quite end to end. Obviously, it finished a 2-2 draw, but I thought we played pretty well. We kind of seemed to go almost in a way back to basics with the nonsense that Holt had tried with a FA at left wing back. I still can't get over that. First of all, we play FA at wing back. Now we're playing Marvin Bartley at left wing. Christ. But I just thought that was quite an entertaining game to watch. Obviously, it was one of the first games that we kind of got to watch without crowds being there. And I think he's goal that I don't think I actually bought the game, but Yeah, I think, last goal for Lyndon Dykes and then first goal for Alan Forrest. I just remember being thoroughly entertained by that match, especially going ahead, falling behind, going 2-1 behind, and then pulling it back to 2-2. I think Craig Sibbald had an excellent game that game as well, so throw in Sibbald's name. But yeah, that 2-2 draw at the start of the season I thought was actually quite decent.
Thomas, what about you?
I'm going to be super positive here and talk about one of the best performances that we've seen over the last few years at Arminville. It was the 1-0 victory back in February last year. And, it sounds a bit mental, me saying 1-0 victory and one of the best performances, but we absolutely battered them that day. I've had a quick look at the stats before this. We had 16 shots, half on target, half off target, but to their 1. The fact that we won that game 1-0 only was an absolute travesty. We carved through them and we looked brilliant. We were playing some absolutely quality football. And, I think during the game, I remember I maybe said to Liam that it just didn't look like our day because it was the nearly the 70th minute when we scored. And I was like, we've been so good today, but it's got 0-0 written all over it because, we just can't get the ball in it. But, Liam's hero and favourite ever footballer, Aaron Taylor Sinclair, popped up with a goal in that game. And we got the points, but it was just enjoyable to watch, despite us not. I'd rather that we won 6-0, and battered them that much. But God, we were good that day. We played quality football, and I think that's why it winds me up so much when people call us hammer throwers or say that we're a very direct team. We're not, because when we get the ball down and play, we have those creative players. Previously mentioned Sibbald, Pittman, and it would have been Lawless and stuff last season. And we could play the game well. So I'm going to touch on that one. It was a great game to watch. Obviously, a good win, and good performance.
Povey, what do you think about Motherwell?
What do I think about Motherwell?
Aye.
I'm going back just because it was a pretty funny moment. Like back, I tell you what, it might be one of my early sort of Fir Park times. It was 2003, November 2003, and we drew 1-1 with Motherwell. They went 1-0 up. Clarkson scored, and their fans were going mental. And just much like my hatch in my house here, actually, there was a window behind, and it was all the boys, all these Motherwell boys on, in the executive lounge, giving it laldy, and they were all taking the piss out of the Livy fans. Yeah, and it was we were raging about that. Of course, it was about 10 minutes later, Derek Lilly equalised. Well, gave them pelters, like. It was absolutely hilarious. Like, that was so. I thought of that actually. That goal there, Lily's equaliser and getting her right around those boys in the window behind me. But that was obviously the cup winning team as well. I remember Fernandez playing a blinder that day as well. So I thought I'd throw that one in there.
Nice, Liam.
I've got a few. I remember that game that Thomas touched on, because the thing that stuck out was I think Motherwell hit the post with literally the last kick of the game, and I was like, "Fuck!" Like, we got away with that, thank God, because we probably should have hammered them. But I do remember Stephen Robinson, their manager at the time, coming out and saying if we'd scored that, then it would have been a massive injustice. The game I'm going to choose is a 0-0 draw, which sounds boring, but it was actually more to do with the day itself. It was the first day of the season of last season. Scorching hot day, pints down the Livy Inn. Key's a sponsor if you want to. My little cousin from England, he was up. he was up for it. My friend Johnny from Wales, he was up, so we took him as well for a day session at Livy Inn, which he thoroughly enjoyed. Yeah, there was just a few of us down there. It was brilliant, absolutely brilliant day. The game itself was horrendous. I actually think Nicky Devlin might have missed a sitter in the last minute. Sure, he was put through on goal and he just completely fucked it. But yeah, no, that was a good day. More for the day than the result. I also actually remember Povey's one because we were talking about it last week that I miss a lot of goals. That was probably the first goal I remember missing was Derek Lilly. My dad sent me for the pies because we were 1-0 down, weren't playing very well. Went to get the pies, came back and just seen the words goal written on the Motherwell scoreboard and all the Livy boys celebrating. So that was a gutter. But nah, the 0-0 draw at the start of last season, that was a good day.
For me, I have kind of two things about Motherwell. So I remember when I had my season ticket back when I was a wee laddie, and I first saw James McFadden. And I don't know if you remember, lads, that he had like some proper Star Wars Jedi, like Anakin Skywalker little rat tail thing. And it was that, and his hair was pink. No wonder it all fell out and he had to get transferred. But I remember just seeing him and just thinking, "Oh, this guy's gonna be good." I remember watching that going, "Fuck, I wish Livy had a James McFadden with his stupid hair." And also, I loved Star Wars as well, so it was like, my God, this guy's an actual Jedi. And also, I'm just going to bring up, I don't think it was last season or was it the season before, then I went to Fir Park with Liam and his dad.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
I forgot about that game, actually.
Yeah, so we went through Fir Park, and I think it was it's a shite story, I can't remember. Was it 3-2?
Yes.
So they were like 3-0 up at halftime. We were utter dog shit. Like, well, I think we had a few good chances, and then Scott Tiffany scored 2 goals, and actually played really well, which was class. But I remember like Liam just got his new car, and we're like driving through, and we got to Hart Hill, and it started raining. You turned on your windscreen wiper, and it just like fell off.
No, it got stuck, man.
It got stuck.
Stuck.
And Liam's got this new automatic fancy car. He's like, oh my god, like I can't. It's like getting stuck. Wouldn't work, and it was. It's just a wee silly story, but yeah, it was kind of a last Motherwell. It was the first time at Fir Park, and yeah, it's a bit of a shitter stadium, but has kind of niceness about it as well at the same time. But nothing too exciting. Well, that just wraps up for this week. So why not jump over to our social media? Twitter and Instagram are at Almond View Pod. Facebook and YouTube, just search for the Almond View Podcast and make sure to follow us on whenever you get your podcasts to keep up to date with new episodes. Thanks very much for listening. Forza Livy. See you next week.